My dad has been secretly recording our conversations just to maintain control over the family. So a little bit of a backstory. I have a mild case of autism where I don't pay enough attention and get easily distracted. Basically, my attention span is pretty low to where sometimes I daydream too often. Another thing to add, my parents are divorced, so it would work out for them. You see, my dad is the entitled jackass of this story, and my mom is a much more civilized and sane person. My dad is the kind of dad that you wouldn't want to ask for help on homework or anything, as he would get upset if you do not do a problem right after trying it out 20 times, and to when it is 3 in the morning. My mom, on the other hand, gave me some nice tutors that helped me with my work, and thus helped me with my work in a much calmer fashion. My dad was always very strict and unbearable. I still remember as a child, my dad would force me to read SpongeBob SquarePants kids' books and gets really upset if I don't pronounce a word correctly when I was still a child, not wanting to look at the books after that. And they are SpongeBob SquarePants, a beloved kids' cartoon character. Don't get the wrong idea, he isn't abusive by any means at all. He was just strict beyond belief. Now, my innocent mind didn't understand what a divorce was at the time until it was explained. Growing up, I got 2 Christmas and 2 birthdays. I saw this as an absolute win. Unfortunately, as I grew up, I began to be afraid of my own dad more. I would complain about being at his house. I would flinch and ask, what do I do when he calls me? And because of him, I became a bully to my mom, being angry all the time and holding grudges against her and my sisters when I was 8. Like a school bully bringing the rage from their home to the school. I regret those days and would want to smack the anime edgelord. 2005 grudge holding. Screw you, Mom. You'll never understand, out of the past version of me if I traveled back in time. One more thing to add. When an autistic child, or any child with a mental disability, at the age of 18 has to decide to go to which parent's house to get some help in the real world. They can decide if I am capable of handling what reality has thrown at me, and due to my autism being mild, I was an okay kid growing up. A few tantrums here and there, but it all worked out in the end. Besides, every other child has been through it. We grow. Moving on. Now, a few months before the trial, there was a lady that would come to both houses and analyze how life is like. She analyzed my mom as well as her living standards, and she did well. She also went to my dad's place with me there. I explained what goes on at that house. Even said something really risky. So how would you say your father is like? The lady asks. Well, it's quite stressful, and honestly, I and my sisters are afraid of doing anything. It's like trying to stop the countdown of a nuclear bomb. I was honestly surprised my dad didn't step in at all, or even scolded me once she left. After her, there was another person that came. A guy whose job was to interview me and know what I want. Which parent to go to. I was hesitant about choosing sides, so I went for both parents. The problem was later when I found out that my dad was listening in on my conversation with the man. Kinda raises some red flags, wouldn't you say? At first, I didn't want to decide between the two because of my love for both of them. I thought of going to both houses for advice, that is, until I realized my dad wouldn't listen to my mom if it meant saving his life. He did everything he can to get me to be with him, most notably forcing me to bring friends over when I just want to have my day. Don't get me wrong, my friends are great. It is just constantly forcing me to them isn't going to help. And here is where the real story begins. If you read this far, I congratulate you for enduring unnecessary moments. Because of my college schedule, my trial was a week before my birthday to make things easier. I was at my dad's week at the time, so he drove me to the courthouse. We were then crossing the streets, and this is what happened. So, Grovile 489, what do you want for your birthday? Dad asks. I knew he was trying to buy me, that damn snake, but I played along saying, I sent you a list. I send my dad a list of things I want should Christmas and my birthday come up that mostly involve games. Call me spoiled, I'm well aware of that. So we enter, and I was pretty nervous, so I sat at a bench next to the door. My mom, unlike my dad, didn't pressure me to her house. She only tells me, Grovile 489. It is going to be okay, just pick whatever house you want. She never pressured me to do things her way, and I respect her for that. Anyway, it was time for the trial, and when we went to our seats, the seating arrangement was, from left to right, Mom, me, Dad. Now I want you to remember that order. So a couple of cases go by. I didn't really pay attention to them. Some were somewhat similar to my case, but with some grandma with Alzheimer's, I dunno. It really isn't my business. It was our turn, and we approached the judge with my lawyer that's been hired by the state. Now, when my mom heard about me wanting to be with both of them to get through in life, she was very hesitant, not wanting to do this. But my blind ass didn't realize this until I said, Mr. Lawyer, I have changed my mind and wanted to be with my mom. And if you think you can get me to speak to the judge privately, I tell him, and I didn't know how my mom was feeling FYI. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Your Honor, I don't represent Mrs. G, but I don't think she wants to share custody, and my client has told me he wants to be with her instead of both of them. And my client would also like to request that he speaks to you in private. Mr. Lawyer tells the judge. I can tell my dad was shocked. I didn't confirm it because I was too worried about what will happen. I will speak to Grovile 489 and find a solution. We will take a 5-minute break, and during the break, I will reach my verdict. The judge says. We return to our seats, and this was the new order. Mom, me, Dad. I was absolutely terrified that I couldn't even look at him. If you looked closer, you could see me slightly shaking in fear. I felt a hand on my shoulder and heard Grovile, do you want me to drop out? Because I can drop out if you want me to. Just tell me what you want, coming from Dad. It's like him to keep on pushing something when things don't go his way. Mom realized this and defended me, saying, Mr. G, don't bother him, you're scaring him. To which he responded with, I'm not bothering him, I just want to know what he wants. I went to the restroom and then washed my hands. I leaned to the sink and asked myself, Grovile 489, what the hell are you doing? I didn't think I would make it that far in all honesty. I called my older sister and told her how the trial was going. She was comforting me when all of a sudden, the bathroom door swung open by Dad. Grovile 489, they're ready for you. I had to hang up right away while I felt my soul rip straight from the back of my head. Who are you calling? Dad asks. Just a friend. I respond quickly. Grovile 489, don't lie to me. Dad responds in a guilt-tripping tone. No, I'm serious, it was just a friend. I said after he said that. I told the judge what goes on after he handed me 2 Snicker bars, and he reaches his verdict. The new order is as follows. Me, Mom, Dad. The court was over, and we went to leave. We also had to go and get something from my community college, and my dad was going on about how we were going to go there. We're going to get the thing. Mom knew that I didn't want to be with him after that, and said that she will take me. He got really upset and left through the front door. He noticed me and Mom leaving to the basement. Hey, the exit is right here, he says to her, but she didn't respond. Admittedly, I too didn't understand why we are going down there until she explained that there is an exit in the basement. God bless whoever thought of that when making the courthouse. We watched Dad storm off angrily to his car and drove off. I redialed my sister and told her what happened. Meanwhile, my dad called my mom and scolded her for brainwashing me and all that stuff. She was having none of it and hung up. After she hung up, she gets a text from him saying grosera, which is Spanish for rude, the dad from Peru, the mom from Mexico. After we did my thing, I was very hesitant to enter the house, but to my surprise, he acted like the trial didn't even happen, like everything was fine. The fact he was so calm honestly made me a bit more on edge. And that is what happened on the day of the trial. Edit. A few weeks after the trial, I decided to give my dad a visit, try to reconnect, but mostly had my fingers crossed that he changed. I get there and of course, he was ecstatic to see me. It was pretty well. We had steak and rice. I played Go Vacation on my Switch. Remember when I said the birthday thing about when my trial was? I also had Mario Aces Tennis too. It went well. When suddenly he came into my room and asked, So Grovile 489, why did you decide to be at your mom's instead of with me? I felt trapped, like in a corner. He just put me on the spot like that. I knew he wasn't gonna leave, so I tried to think of a lie. And honestly, it wasn't my best lie over my years on Earth, because it was closer to my college. I told my mom that, and we still laugh at that. He clearly saw through me and told me to tell the truth. I said to him that it was because he would get so stressed whenever I do homework with him. Honestly, though, the way I said it, it sounded like it was because he was forcing me to do homework. I also mentioned that I don't entirely trust him with my money because of how he gets so needy of what we spend our money on and, as an example, how he keeps track of what my older sister spends on, mostly on gas for her car. But that's not all. When I got to my mom's home, I get a massive texting angry rant from my older sister. Turns out, that son of a whore tried to pit me and my sister against each other. He told her that I told him everything about her. She was really pissed and told me that everything she told me was private. I was positive that I may have mentioned that, but it wasn't my intention to say it's because of her. She was really an example. I texted her an apology, as she does have the right to be angry, and explained how he was so uppity about the money he made for us. She and I realized that he was trying to make us turn on one another. Also, one more thing, he recorded my conversation with him. Again, I hardly believed it at all. Now I can't seem to trust him in the slightest. Hey, I know it's been some time since I've been on this sub. It's kinda ironic. I've made this Reddit account to talk about my dad and the day of the trial, as well as made a follow-up post following 1 year later, but now I return with great news. It's been 5 years since I cut off my dad, his actions scaring me and his selfish accusations, but I come here with a satisfied post. I've finally made things right with him. These past 5 years, I've hated him. I've done everything I could to cut him out of my life, but the memories of everything he's done stuck with me due to my autism, making things difficult to forget stuff. I remember things from when my older sister was 5 years old, days she completely forgot about, not out of malice or being a bitch, but because she was 5 goddamn years old. I've been recently going to therapy and have had different methods of calming myself, as I would have these sudden memories, flashes throughout my day, events that both my older sister and my dad have done that have hurt me in some way. I have a job now that is different from what I posted on /made me smile purely because I didn't understand it at the time. Would need to clarify things on that sub sometime. Anyway, I would record my thoughts in a notebook that I bought, be they enraging, intrusive, or straight up suicidal. It made things hard for me to function. But after the therapy, I've been able to at least control those thoughts, anchor myself to the present, recognize moments that would tick me off, and try to calm myself down. These flashes have made me often angry with those two. I've often attempted to cut off my older sister and would get angry if I had some class today with her for our college. Our relationship was often rocky, and I often convinced myself that she was toxic, unable to accept being in the wrong and fighting tooth and nail for her chance to be right. However, within the final hours of 2024, I was angry with my sister for not paying back some cash. Something I would often do when she owes me money as some form of power over her. She came to confront me and I just shut down, just said yes because I didn't want to deal with her and make her leave. Angry, I wrote down on my journal of my hatred before she came to me and once again, calmer compared to before, asked to talk to me. She asked me what she could do to finally get some peace, to finally stop this unnecessary hatred of mine. It may be because of my therapy, but I found this as an opportunity to make things right. An opportunity to finally move on and heal my heart. All I ask from her is an "I'm sorry." I've told her how I felt, how my autism makes things hard to forgive, move on, forget moments that I should be too young to remember, and she actually did that. She gave me an apology and wanted to do things right. Upon her apologizing, I felt my heart healing. Like blood suddenly circulated through my arms, and we were good. That was a lot, but here is where it connects to my own dad. At the beginning of this week, we were celebrating my older sister's birthday. We went to a restaurant, and throughout the time, I was difficult, for lack of a better term. Once I left, I harbored deep resentment, and I tried everything I could to remove him from my life, refusing any moment where we could be together with my sisters, making up some excuse to not join the family. I didn't want any part of him and harbored the anger for years, writing the pain down in my journal and ranting to my therapist about the things he has done. I was called out on it, and upon returning to my mom's, my younger sister started ranting to me about how I was being unfair, a jerk, and how he was actually improving since years ago. For the record, she was as delicate as can be with the subject. The man was responsible for everything I've ever felt, all my negativity, all my hate, so much so I could probably summon Unicron from Transformers or become Odio from Live Alive. Despite how she was careful, it's still a touchy subject to me. I broke down, absolutely angry, and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Fucking old man," while I slammed a pipe to my bed. The pipe was once an old curtain piece that fell. We now use it to hang our clothes after laundry. The man who I've told my therapist that I would never forgive, the man who I despised with all my being, the man who traumatized me as a child. After my breakdown, my mom comforted me, letting me let it all out while my younger sister was there, watching me cry my eyes out of pure hatred. I didn't want her to think that it was her fault. She was very delicate in the matter, but it was still a tough thing to bring up in conversation. That's when she decided to do something. She has decided to try to make a sort of apology appointment. Apollo P. appointment. Upon hearing this, I recalled how my older sister apologized and things went well. If that could work for her, it may possibly work for him, and I could finally be truly happy once again. I agreed and said she had 72 hours. There was no real deadline. She just had to go back to college after visiting us. One day has passed, and I felt a sense of sadness. I had a heavy heart and cried. Was this me just trying to keep angry? Who knows? She told my older sister about her project involving me, and the two told my dad how to fix things with me once and for all. The day has finally arrived, the day for my dad and I to make things right. He told my sisters to leave the room, even though they told me prior that they would be listening in and coming in just in case things went south. However, our conversation was quite mature. I've told him the things I felt and told him that he scared me. That part seems to hit him the most. He only wanted to try to get me to be a better person with my autism and try my best, but he never thought he was scaring me with his own rage. I then found out that he once had a similar experience with his dad. Hated him just like how I hated my own. He apologized and the feeling returned. I may return to his house to be with him from time to time compared to last time. How ironic. I've made a Reddit account a post on how much I hate my dad and his actions during the trial, and now I'm using that same Reddit account, which I used to shitpost on r/death battle, to finally show that I've finally found peace. I'm not sure if this is the right subreddit to mention this, but I'd like to say that my journey is finally complete. I've felt better and can finally live my life without hatred. I'd like to make a quote from a video game. It isn't entirely a mature way to end things, but it oddly fits and relates to me. In every heart the seed of dark abides, the makings of a lord when watered well. With hate, sweet hate, she springs eternal, sings, all tempting draught. We'll drink of her again.